Good morning, ma'am. I am Sanjay Garya and this is Vibhav Singh, my friend. We're here to basically talk about and interview you as part of Team Binary Bolts campaign, Rocket Didi, where we seek to inspire females in technology. Our team, Binary Bolts, hails from Aditya Birla World Academy, a leading international school, and is part of the first robotics competition. Now, with over 10 years of experience, Miss Ashwini Asokan is a CEO and the founder of Math Street Den, a computer vision based on artificial intelligence company. The company's cloud based platform powers customers across the globe with its AI products across e commerce, robotics, and much more. Ms. Ashwini and her team have built one of the world's first retail based AI platforms, View.ai. Over to you, Vibhav.
Hi, ma'am. It's great to have you here. Can we start the interview?
Yeah, sure.
Could you tell us why you think personally it is important for women to be in the STEM field?
I think it's important for every human being to get into the STEM fields in some form, right? To have exposure and access to STEM education, throughout their childhood, and for people to have the option to decide what they want to do with their life with that STEM education. I think it's more important, even more so for women, because I believe that we should be working very hard to level the playing field. You find a lot of women in the arts, you find a lot of women in journalism, you find a lot of women in many different fields, but the STEM fields have systematically made it difficult for women to participate in it in the long run, right? And it's not just enough to have an education or a background in STEM. It's important to figure out at every stage in your life and in your career how you're going to take that forward in some form, right? And you can enter the STEM fields from many, many different angles. I am someone that I didn't really do, I didn't do STEM at all. Actually, if you think about me, I come from an arts background. I come from a design and a product design background, but I've ended up, with a career in AI. And it's very doable. It's very possible. You can get into the STEM related fields from many, many different perspectives. And I think I think it's one thing to make sure that there's a good pipeline of people, women who are really interested and excited about getting into STEM and STEM related fields. But the other part of it is also, how do you actually make a career out of it and then continue to live in that STEM zone for a long time to come? Because that's what the future is, right? Future is about AI. The future is about robotics. The future is about, the human species coexisting with a lot of other types of species that are not going to look entirely like us. And I think computer literacy is basically the equivalent of it's basic literacy at this point in time. It's not an option. It's like learning language. It's like learning math. It's like learning some very basic skills. I think computer literacy is the same as that. And this is the future. So if anybody wants to make a life and to be relevant in the coming decades, this is not so much an option as much as it's basic literacy.
Right. That's great. That was very nice. Can you tell us, in your opinion, what you think is the most important skill to have in the field of STEM?
That's a really interesting question. What kind of skills do you really need to develop? I usually talk to people from a career point of view about, there are two types, I would say, classify people in two different ways that you can really think about your career, right? You can think about specializing in something. So you could decide you want to be, that you want to be a physicist. You could decide you want to be a computer scientist. You could decide you want to be a neuroscientist. It doesn't matter, right? So you could pick a line of specialization because you know that that's kind of where you're headed, and you could go down becoming, somebody who's a specialist in a particular field, right? You could also decide you're going to be someone in the field of, in generally when you're trying to get into, a job in the workforce, People are often referred to as T-shaped people and I-shaped people. Okay. I-shape is somebody with a lot of specialization, right? You can choose to be someone who's going to go specialize in one particular field and go really deep in, commit to it and be the expert in it, right? That's one way to basically build a career and build a set of skill sets. Then you're going to optimize. All the skill building you're going to do is going to be optimized towards that singular career that you're trying to have, right? The T-shaped person is not the same way. The T-shaped person is a little bit more of a generalist, right? And if you think you're a better generalist than you are somebody who's a specialist, then you've got to be very well-rounded, right? Meaning you've got to be someone who understands process. You've got to be someone who understands, systems. It's not about a thing, it's about a larger system, right? And a system is about multiple things interacting with it, right? So you need to learn process, you need to learn how to program manage your stuff, you need to learn to understand systems, you need to learn to connect the dots, and you're someone who kind of really plays in the intersection of different things, right? Rather than deeply into one thing. So depending on which way you're going, you should probably spend some time thinking about just naturally which one you're leaning towards. And, depending on which way you're going, you should probably, and if you are a T-shaped person, like I can tell you that my co-founder is clearly I-shaped and I am clearly T-shaped, right? And one person who's very deep and specific into a set of things, and my job is to look across the multiple things and start to see kind of connections between those things, right? You just have to ask yourself who you are, and depending on which way you think you're leaning towards or you're interested in, and people can change. That's the other thing, right? 5 years down the line, you might suddenly decide you want to specialize in one thing, so that's fine. I think the one thing I would strongly encourage people to do, as they're learning these, whatever skills it is that you're picking up along the way, whatever your education is, whatever your apprenticeship is, dabble in many things. Don't dabble in one thing alone, unless you're somebody who's looking too deep into focus and specialize on one thing, in which case, obviously, that is something that I actually think we do fairly well in India. We kind of know how to pick a field and then go deep in. We do that broadly, but I don't think we do enough of picking up a lot of things, right? And looking at larger systems thinking, I don't think is something that our educational institutions or our industry really has embraced, and that is something where the rest of the world is headed. You have to learn to understand systems and manage big picture, which means you need to be willing to kind of pick up many different types of skills, communication skills, management skills, systems thinking, process making, right? So it's a lot of different types of skills that have to come together if you want to be a generalist in the future.
Right, ma'am. That's great. Could you also tell us what were some of the challenges you faced in your career in the field of STEM, to be more specific?
Challenges, I think at any given point of time, everyone is going to face different types of challenges, right? There are, and again, a framework to think about challenges is there are challenges that come from within, and there are challenges that come from outside, right? And you have to ask yourself what types of challenges that are around you, right? Are all your challenges external challenges, or are your challenges actually internal challenges, right? Sometimes challenges can come in the form of just falling short of skills you need to have, right? Those challenges are much more easier to be controlled. And I've definitely gone through different points of time in my life when I felt like, I've fallen short of a certain set of things I wish I'd had, and the solution is simple. You can actually go and take on, things to do that will allow you to gain those skills, right? I didn't learn most of my skills in undergrad or in grad school. It doesn't matter where you do your master's and which part of the world you do what. At the end of the day, 99% of the learning that you do happens on the job, right? That's where you learn all your skills. And so it's very simple to fix. You just have to ask. I'm one of those people that has always walked up when I used to work at Intel in SF, when I worked across different types of jobs. I'll just go up to like the boss's boss and say, I'd like to do those things as well. Right? You can ask, that's it. You can pick up any skills. When the challenges are internal, you just have to go and ask people to open doors for you, and people will be more than willing to open doors for you. The number of people who actually voluntarily go out there and say, hey, I want to do that. I want to do this. Tell me how. Let me do this. It won't affect my day job. Let me do it on weekends and nights, right? So going and asking and taking that initiative and being proactive about opening doors for yourself, I think is one of those things that's the easiest thing to do, and you can overcome a lot of challenges you have internally, right? So that's one way to think about it. External challenges, of course, there are a lot of people out there who I would argue everybody's going about their own life. People are all looking to kind of make things work for them. And sometimes your goals will be in conflict with what someone else wants, right? You'll be crossing paths with them, whether it's you're competing for the same job or whether it's a hierarchy that's getting in the way of what you're trying to do. The challenges are external. I always think about it, like I said, systematically, right? Like using a little bit of a systems thinking. Why is this person doing this? Why is the industry saying this? Why are people doing it? What are these challenges? So approaching challenges in a very logical kind of way and just breaking it down. Why is this happening? Why is this a challenge? How do you break it down? Who's behind this? What can I do to overcome that barrier? That's it, right? I think not taking challenges personally is probably the most important thing. Everybody's going about their lives trying to kind of make things happen for themselves, right? In many cases, you're irrelevant, but we tend to take challenges very personally, like it was targeted at us. And I think just overcoming that and saying, like, it's a challenge, here's why, here's how I can overcome it, and here's how I'm going to do it, right? And just keeping at it. Persistence is half the thing. And so I would say I've definitely faced both internal as well as external challenges in my career. And for me, it's largely been about, finding ways to solve it and keeping at it until I solve it.
So you would say that solving those challenges would mainly come from prudence and like being very prudent and having the right questioning skills?
Yeah, asking yourself why, right? Why is this a challenge? How can I solve it? Is the answer, because if you're in control of it and you're someone who can solve, if it's an internal challenge, then it's very easily solvable, right? Because you are the person in control, you can solve it. As opposed to external challenges where there are lots of other factors. And so you have to be smart about mapping out those factors that are challenges. And you have to start figuring out how you're going to, attack each one. And you need a strategy. It's kind of like, it's kind of like going to war, right? Like you need a battle strategy at any given point of time, and you need to figure out who you're going to take out first, how you're going to take them out, how you're going to strategize, and how you're going to go play. And not taking no for an answer, right? You need to be really, really shameless, especially when it comes to challenges, and saying, yeah, it's a challenge, but I'm going to keep at it until it goes away, right? And being persistent, showing up is 90% of the job, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to overcome, getting up and showing up is literally 90% of the job. The other 10% is just keeping at it.
That's good. That's nice. Thank you for that. Finally, if you could send one message to women out there, what would it be?
Don't take no for an answer.
Okay. And yeah, so that's it. That's all we had. Would you like to maybe elaborate on that? I mean, you sort of have.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes to the other point I was trying to make, right? Doors are shut. A lot of doors are shut for women. And a lot of people are going to say no. And if you let them say no, you're going to let them say no. Break down that door and don't take no for an answer, and keep demanding whatever you want. Ask for those doors to be open and stride through those doors. Don't take no for an answer.
That's fantastic. What a great piece of advice. I think I'm going to use it as well. Thank you. So thank you so much. This was a great time, and we learned so much. And I'm sure you've already inspired multiple women out there to pursue STEM and how to face challenges. And the one thing is to not take no for an answer. So thank you so much. Thanks again. It's been wonderful having you here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Bye.
Bye.